Filipinos know Jose Rizal as a face on the coin, a figure in a monument, a name on the street, or a textbook. So for today, we want to show you Rizal without the overcoat. Good afternoon to our fellow teachers. Today we hope to persuade you not to overlook Rizal, but to give a second more nuanced look. Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Rielonda was the seventh child from the 11 children of Francisco Rizal Mercado and Chadora Alonso y Quintos. He was born on June 19, 1861 in Calamba, Laguna. The family was a prosperous farming family who rented land from the Dominican religious order. They are the descendants of a Chinese immigrants named Domingo Lamco. However, they changed their name to Mercado due to the anti-Chinese sentiments among Spanish invaders. Rizal displayed a bright intelligence from a young age. Rizal attended the Ateneo Municipal de Manila and graduated with honors at the age of 16. He pursued a postgraduate course in land surveying. 1878, the young man enrolled as a medical student at the University of Santo Tomas. He then left the school alleging the Dominican professors discriminated against Filipino pupils. Rizal boarded a ship bound to Spain without alerting his parents in May 1882. After coming, he enrolled at Universidad Central de Madrid at the age of 23. He got his medical degree in June 1884. And the following year, he graduated from the Philosophy and Letters Department. Inspired by his mother's deteriorating blindness, Rizal next went to University of Paris and then to the University of Heidelberg to further study in ophthalmology. He studied under the renowned Professor Otto Baker. In 1887, Rizal completed his second doctorate at Heidelberg. Laong Laan was Rizal's pen name. He wrote poems and articles to the Spanish newspapers, La Solidaridad. Di Masalang, on the other hand, was used while he worked as an correspondent for the same newspaper. Lastly, as we all know, he is the author of the well-known novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, as well as the other work, To the Filipino Youth, Kundi Man and Mi Ultimos Adios. Now that you have learned the basic information about Dr. Jose Rizal, how about we tell you more stories about him? Isn't it that exciting? Well, it really is. I've been hearing or reading stories on the internet regarding the life of Dr. Jose Rizal. However, we don't know if it's really true or not. So join us as we will be sharing with you The Rizal Without the Overcoat by Dr. Ambet Ocampo, a well-known public historian. Here with me are Ma'am Lyza and Ma'am Jessa, who are currently taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, majoring in Social Studies, to give you what are the things you should learn more about Dr. Jose Rizal, and their basis would be Dr. Ocampo's book. One of many questions about Rizal is his identity. They are associating Rizal so many personalities that we know. One is that, is Rizal the father of Hitler? And the other one is Rizal as a Jack Ripper? Oh my God, how could that be, right? Let's start with the first one. Is Rizal really the father of Hitler, Ma'am Lyza?
I found the theory that I never thought of asking the people who told them to explain on what they grounds. There is fanciful claims that Adolf Hitler was really the illegitimate son of Rizal. So I did a little research to find out how people could make up such a story. The claim that Adolf Hitler was Rizal's progeny must be based on the following facts. First, the time Hitler was born, Rizal was in Europe. Second, he's known to be a romantic lover with a bunch of women on his list. The name of Hitler's mother was Clara Pauls. At one time, she was a maid in Vienna. Next, archival footage of Hitler's bunker was featured and hanging on one of the walls was Rizal's portrait. And lastly, Rizal talks about Germany on his poem Alas Flores de Hildeberg. He said, I always think of Germany. I always talk of German loyalty and integrity. When I hear German spoken, I am glad as if it were my mother tongue. I will dedicate my last farewell to Germany. I owe Germany my best remembrances. First of all, yes, it is obvious that Adolf Hitler is conceived in the year 1888 because he was born on April 20, 1889. But Rizal and Clara Pauls have no connection to each other. They might have seen each other, but similar to strangers you meet every day. They did not have any relationship, even a simple friendship. Next, the diamond stick might have been found by Clara Pauls because she was a maid, but she did not work on a hotel where Rizal stayed. She was hired as maid by Alois Hitler in 1876. Thus, the maid who found the precious jewel was not her. By the way, it shows what might have been the reason or origination of the urban legend. They created it to show us what this person might have thought to connect Adolf Hitler's and Jose Rizal's life. That might be the rationale behind such a fantastic claim, based on information that can be gathered from any high school textbook on Rizal and any good biography of Adolf Hitler. Naturally, this can only be done through selective use of the evidence, but it does make for an amusing piece of historical fiction. That is all about the theory of Rizal as the father of Hitler.
Oh, that claim about Rizal as a father of Hitler almost got me. How about Rizal as a Jack Reaper? Was that a fact, Mom Jessa?
Well, Ma'am Tina, the Jack the Ripper issue was just recent, but it is more complicated. So, there was this incident wherein 11 deaths in or near the Whitechapel in London between 1888 to 1891 were gathered into a single file. So, this is referred to as the Whitechapel murder. The suspect on that murder was, of course, Jack the Ripper. So, textbook history states that Rizal was in British Library in London from May 1888 to 1889. And that time, he was copying the 1609 book, Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, of course, by hand because there were no photocopying machine during that time. So, it was believed that Jack the Ripper was active around nighttime, and since Dr. Rizal, that's his copying work during daytime, we don't know what he is doing during nighttime. So, that was the basis of suspecting Rizal as Jack the Ripper. And there are some argument also that says that when Rizal left London, the Ripper murder has stopped. So, ayun, they also said that Jack the Ripper must have some medical training because he used to dispatch his victim is based on surgical method. And that time, of course, Rizal was a doctor. So, ayun, yun yung mga nagiging basis nila. Another one is that the issue on his initials, which is J and R. So, it is perfectly matching those of Jack the Ripper. But here's the truth. The Whitechapel murder actually started on April 1888, a month earlier before Rizal arrived in London. Another one is that Dr. Rizal was an eye doctor or ophthalmologist and not a surgeon of the body. So if he really is Jack the Ripper, why would he kill his victim and divide their bodies? why not bulagin niya na lang, hindi ba? So, ayun. Third is that Jack the Ripper's victim are all girls. But on the other hand, it is true that Dr. Rizal liked girls, but not to kill them, but to love them. And the fourth one was the issue on Dr. Rizal's initials. So, ayun, yung JR initials, which is really exact for his name, Jose Rizal. But when we use logic about the initials of Jack the Ripper, then that would be J, T, and R. And lastly, it is believed that when Rizal left London, the murder also stopped. So they might be wrong on this because when the Whitechapel murder stopped, it was on February 13, 1891, and that was almost a month after Rizal left London. So their claims is not true, and Jose Rizal is not really Jack the Ripper.
Oh, oh well, I do believe in that. He's a good person. I hope people would do the research also. So far, are you enjoying it? Well, we hope so. Because the next one that we will be sharing is something that is quite interesting. What do we have there, Ma'am Jessa?
Thank you, Ma'am Tina. So, I will be telling you a writ that could have changed the history of the Philippines. I was in my junior high school years when I first encountered the word writ of habeas corpus. And when I was in my second year, here in college, I've encountered that word again in our law-related studies. And when we say habeas corpus, it is a law stating that individual cannot be imprisoned or held in custody inside a prison cell unless he or she has been first brought to a court of law. So, back to the story. I was doing my research about that when I came to a site that says that there was a writ of habeas corpus made on behalf of Rizal in Singapore in 1896. Many people do not know that the National Library preserves original documents from the Singaporean court that shed light on this vase. It is a vain attempt to save Rizal's life. So this was donated by the Singaporean government during the Rizal Centennial in 1961. So let me tell you a story. After Rizal's exile in the Pitan, he left the country for Barcelona in July 1896. His application to serve the Spanish army in Cuba had been granted, and he carried letters of recommendation from Governor General Ramon Blanco. And on his way to Spain, he was informed by the captain's cabin that he was implicated in a revolution that had broken out in Manila in August. So, he was arrested and imprisoned in Montoich Castle upon his arrival in Barcelona. And since Rizal was to stand trial in Manila, he was taken as prisoner on the board, and with him were the Spanish soldiers on their way back to Manila. He was free to roam around in the ship when they were in high seas and prohibited to go out, and he was handcuffed when they have their stopover for fuel and other supplies. On their last stop in Singapore, Antonio Regidor sent 2 telegrams to their common friends in Singapore requesting them to petition the Singaporean court to issue a writ of habeas corpus allowing Rizal to disembark and walk to liberty. However, these Filipinos were fearful of the Spanish government, so they hired lawyers to do it for them. Requests for issuance of writ allowed British subjects to help prisoners or the prisoner instead on the ship Leon 13, which is the name of the ship where Rizal was being imprisoned, to disembark in Singapore was submitted. Unfortunately, the Chief Justice of Singaporean Court rejected the application on the grounds that the ship was carrying Spanish troops to the Philippines and a warship of a foreign power which under international law was beyond the jurisdiction of Singapore. So let us try to reflect and realize, future teacher, what could have happened if the writ for Rizal was granted by the Singaporean court? Of course, there would be change in history, right? Imagine if natuloy si Rizal sa Cuba sa Spanish Army, hindi magkakaroon tayo ng Indio na nakatulong sa paglaban ng independence ng Cuba, right? But perhaps Rizal would not also be our national hero for today.
That is so true, Ma'am Jessa. Me, myself, I have been asking what could have happened if that wreath has been granted. Well, the story is going great, huh? And we are all learning more about Rizal. But I would like you to inform you guys that as I was listening with Ma'am Jessa, there were these two ladies who were talking about Rizal. Their name are Marites and Charmaine. Look, I have recorded their conversation. I know that it is not good to record someone's convo, but it's really make me curious.
Uy, Marites, alam mo ba, kuripot daw si Rizal? Ah, talaga ba, Charmaine? Sabi din, mataas ang pred masyadong seryoso.
Is that true, Ma'am Lyza?
Rizal known as national hero, an image that is similar to that of Superman, a perfect hero. However, Rizal was also a quiet man, meaning Rizal was imperfect. He was kuripot. Here are claims for Rizal's stinginess. First, Rizal did not like that idea of supplying drinks to a party. One time, he was invited to a New Year's party, and Rizal was supposed to bring the champagne. He found not a little interest on drinking, gambling, and womanizing. So he stood up and, in typical killjoy fashion, told everyone that he was not paying for the drinks. It is just like inabonohan lang niya. So, the next thing he do was he passed his hat around to collect their share. Next would be he did not want to let his German landlady know he was missing his meal. Because of the delay of his allowance, he would leave his apartment during lunch and dinner time and walk around the city, picking and salivating while watching people in restaurants and bars. When he had walked for about an hour or two, he would return to his apartment to give the impression to his landlady that he had gone out to eat. Kawawa naman. So next is he only wear half a smile in all of his photos. You can't see him laughing. So that is the claim of Rizal stinginess. So here are the sample record of Rizal expenses. So for example, January 27, today I had my picture taken at Otero. It is 10 pesos. Next is half dozen postcards with cover, 3 pesos. 1/10 of lottery tickets, also 3 pesos. And a box of matches, which is 0.10 or 10 centavos. So, we can see here the expenses of Rizal. So, next, did Rizal laugh? Did Rizal smile? So there are many photographs of him, but there's none of him laughing, and all we have is this one with half a smile, just to show you that Rizal had a sense of humor. So in the National Library, there is a drawing of Rizal that is presented here, which is not reproduced in the textbook because it dictates of parting of a man, and they cannot have a national, or we cannot have a national hero of the Philippines drawing of a farting man, but this this shows that Rizal had a healthy sense of humor. So, next, the last picture that I will show to you is this. In the picture, you can see that Pardo de Taveras on the ground. The waiter has joined them, and Rizal's going to throw their an orange or a hard bread roll. They posed for this. They laugh when they had this, and we will never see this in our textbook because the heroes don't look heroic enough. But this shows you that they were ordinary young men like you, and people who had fun, and people who also used the time to be serious. Therefore, Rizal was kuripot only when spending money on items that would not fulfill his passions, self-image, pride, and ambitions. Yes, Rizal was stingy, but for a good reason. Had Jose Rizal not been so dedicated and as a result stingy, the world may have never known the man titled as the national hero of the Philippines.
Marites and Charmaine believing in the fake news again. I'll correct them later, but how about the story that Rizal has a third novel, Ma'am Lyza? Is that true?
When Jose Rizal's El Filibusterismo came off the press in 1891, the author received the customary letters of praise and congratulation from his friends. Rizal had a reason for writing a third party, not so much because his friends asked for it, but because his rival Marcelo H. del Pilar said that he was not impressed with his El Filibusterismo. Rizal began writing his third novel in 1892 in Hong Kong. While in Hong Kong, Rizal was deep into Tagalog. His brother Pasiano had completed a Tagalog translation of Denali, which would have been the definitive edition to beat Patricio Mariano's translation. Rizal also went through the finished translation and made his corrections. So, on the January 3, 1892, Rizal wrote to his friend Ferdinand Blumentritt. So, his letter narrows down the search for the third novel, until there is an undated manuscript entitled Macamisa, in English, After the Mass. Macamisa was originally written by Rizal in Tagalog because he thought that he would like the Filipino masses to read his work. You see, both Nolly and Philly were originally written in Spanish. However, after 2 chapters, Rizal gave up. The reason why is he felt awkward with his Tagalog. So he rewrote the 2 chapters in Tagalog and also in Spanish. And he added the third one before he stopped for an unknown reason. Historians think that he wrote this novel while he was on exile in Hong Kong, because that was the time when he wrote the letter describing the novel to his Austrian friend and confidant Ferdinand Blumentritt. I think he stopped because he moved from Hong Kong to Dapitan. You have to remember that in court or in the court hearing, Rizal's defense was that during his 3-year exile in the Pitan, he did not write or do anything political in nature. Since Rizal's target audience with his third novel was Filipinos, the 3 chapters reveal more on the ways or daily lives of the common Filipinos. It is also a satirical novel that makes fun both of the Spaniards and Filipinos, although more of the latter. So Padre Agaton, the center of the novel, is the Spanish friar who loves to play with young women, especially those who just arrive in town. So there is Capitan Lucas who has a pretty daughter called Cecilia, and Padre Agaton is courting her. Capitan Lucas allows this because he believes that priests are also human beings, so they have sexual urge, and it is better if it is put into open, especially in the case of Padre Agaton, because the priest is responsible enough to provide for his children and the woman who bore him those children. So reading the manuscript is beaten, and one would just wonder how the rest of the story would have gone. This novel is thought of as unfinished because it ends in a sentence that reads, "Sapagkat nabalitang nasampal si Aling Anday ay wala man din silang," which in English translates, although it was rumored that Aunt Anday received slaps on her face, they still do not have. One would also feel a pang to regret because with Rizal's gift in storytelling, people, even those in today's generation, would have enjoyed all those stories.
That was new to me, Mom. Thank you for that. So far, future teacher, are you learning something new? We have one more last story to share. Let's hear it from Mom Jessa.
Ma'am Tina, I have a question. Did you know that the original copy of the Noli Me Tangere, El Filibusterismo, and Mi Ultimo Adios was stolen?
What? It was stolen? By whom? Can you tell us the details, please?
It is not well known that the original copy of Dr. Jose Rizal's Noli Me Tangere, El Filibusterismo, and Mi Ultimo Adios was stolen from the National Library in the evening of December 1961. So that night, unidentified men took this manuscript from their display cases and slipped past in attentive guard, and the only clue left was a physician's rubber glove found by the investigator's guard near the open window that the thief used for his or her escape. The glass case containing the manuscript was forced open, and yet one wonders why the thief didn't cart off the rest of the equal valuable items on the display. A few days later, they sent a ransom note demanding 1.4 million peso for the return of the manuscript. And according to them, if they will not get the ransom or the amount of money that they wanted, the manuscript would be burned. However, the government refused to be blackmailed. So it was Education Secretary Alejandro R. Roses who tried to negotiate with them. After days and days of negotiating, all these 3 priceless manuscripts were recovered by him, who up to his dying days would neither confirm nor deny whether ransom was paid, whether wholly or partly. But of course, what is important is that it was safely returned to the National Library.
So that means that we don't really know who the thieves were, and the ransom was paid. And Secretary Rosas never told any information about it. Oh, maybe there is a reason, but nonetheless, thanks to him it was retrieved, right? Is there anything to add, Ma'am Jessa?
Like what you have said earlier, our reference from our discussion for today was a book entitled Rizal Without the Overcoat. And this is written by Dr. Ambet Ocampo, who is a really well-known public historian who has been writing and researching about Dr. Rizal. And he has a short message for all of us, not just the BE Ed and the Social Studies major, but to all of us future teacher. This is not a video message since he is out of the country and has a busy schedule. But he sent me a short but inspiring message, especially that teachers play an important role in nation building. So, here it goes. Rizal was a teacher and we have a lot to learn from him. From his life, from the way he organized his school in Dapitan, and from that way, he wanted us to become nation. That was short but meaningful.
That was a challenge from Dr. Ocampo. Thank you, sir. So that's it, fellow teachers, for our story time for today. We hope you learn a thing or two from the stories we have presented to you. Always remember that Dr. Jose Rizal said, to foretell the destiny of a nation, it is necessary to open the book that tells of her past. So we don't forget important lesson of history that me and my group mates presented to you today. Good luck to you and adios everyone. Bye-bye.